the father figure of things. No matter how many new techniques of effective parenting are designed, the one thing that is consistent in the importance of forming and maintaining healthy relationships. Alright, I am almost sure that something is wrong with that sentence.
One thing that is no, there's nothing wrong.
Just
The one
read
thing
it.
that is consistent is the importance of.
Oh yes, yes, that's in my head. Right there. So, relationship. It's not the money. It's almost not anything else that you provide. If you have a healthy relationship within your household, with your children, with your wife, your husband, then you have saved yourself a world of problems. Children have a need for parents at every stage. I'll take out almost. Children have a need for the parents at every stage in life. Even when they're 95 and you're 160. There is always that parent-child relationship, that bond that needs to be elevated to the highest point. Now, here are some of the stages. We have a newborn, toddler, big kid, preteen, teenagers, adolescent, young adult. As they go through these stages, they have different needs. And one of the challenges for parents is that oftentimes we don't understand how to navigate the different stages of development. What a child needs at 6 months is not what they need at 2 years old. What they need at 4 is not what they need at 8. What they need at 13 is not what they need at 18 years old. So we have to learn now to what? Navigate the different stages, because children go through different stages. It was funny for me. When I started my master's program, one of the first courses that we did was developmental psychology. And it was amazing that I sat and observed Timothy going through all of the stages. Not all children go through them, but Timothy went through every single one of them. And sometimes, it takes great patience also to be good parents. Because there is a stage that children go through at 2 years old that is called the terrible twos. And it is indeed the terrible twos. When they do some of the most outrageous things. And if you are not a patient person, then trust me, you might end up in prison. I remember a friend of mine told me that, when her daughter was going through the terrible twos, she went in a supermarket one day, and her daughter decided that she wanted a pack of Smarties, those candy. And she told her daughter no. And the daughter just dropped herself down on the floor. And she started roll from one end of the supermarket to the other end. And she bawling down the place. You know what my friend said she did? She just stepped over her and went all about her business. And behave as if she never see her at all. Two, she came running behind mommy. It takes great patience and it takes also know-how. You cannot allow everything to dry your patience, because it is going to get you into serious problems. So a part of how you do that is learn how to navigate the different stages of development. There's going to come a time when that young man who you had in the house was so calm and collected. All of a sudden he coming like Satan right hand. And you wonder what with this boy did. All of a sudden he start doing the strangest of things. You might see him coming with all a purple hairstyle. And in the society that we live in, you put the boy in a straight pants, and when you come back, the pants look like him in a tights. And the eyebrow them shape out, and the face start bleach out, and it might be more piercing than the hole that is in the wall. And you wonder, what is going on through this young man's head? It is a stage of development. At this stage of development, they want to identify. And again, it comes back to what? Relationship. If you don't form a healthy relationship at the early stage, when they reach this particular stage where they want to identify, it now becomes a problem, because guess what? They go out looking for people who are like them. And if you don't allow them to build a sense of self, allow them to be confident in who they are, then you will have those problems in the future. So you see, I'm not telling you nothing new because I see people nodding their head like sheep, so it don't matter. So we are in agreement. Alright? Challenges, a key stage of behaviors change. Challenges will be different. Relationships change. The mothers and daughters always go through this one. Your daughter, who and she's sit down and talk about everything. You share everything. All of a sudden your daughter becomes so secretive. It's like you have become public enemy number one. And all of a sudden everything is like you're fasting in our business. It is also a stage of development. And here's a warning. Do not fall into the Americanized style of parenting. Because there are some things we say, especially on our sitcoms on TV, that we think that because it's not a new way of parenting. Because I tell you this. I remember some time ago, a friend of mine told me that, he took off all the locks off his door. I said, why you do that? He says, it's my house. And nobody must come in my house and talk about the locking up in the door. It's my house. So he has 2 children. So there are no locks on the bedroom doors of his daughter and his son. Because nobody's going to slam in the door and lock up and say, boy, I need my privacy. There are some things that, and I'm not saying that children not to have privacy, but privacy extends so much and no more. So we have to learn now to navigate the different stages. Everything is made significantly easier if a healthy relationship is formed and maintained at the earliest stage. See them again? They look lovely, don't they? Here's another reason why I placed those slides here. All of our families can be the same way. It's not because they have more money than we. It's not because they're more handsome and prettier than we. And by the way, that's just a picture. We don't even know if they are real family. But the imagery that is there tells us that it is not far-fetched to work towards these things. It is simply having the information and applying it in a way that God speaks. Exercise unconditional love. And I can't say this more. Your children must know that you love them in spite of everything that happens. Your son is not always going to behave the way you want him to behave. Your daughter is not always going to behave the way you want her to behave. That must not define how much you love them. So when they mess up, you must love them anyway. When they do good, you must love them anyway. I'm not telling you, most of what I say I can relate to. When I was in high school, I went to Manchester High School. Anybody here went to Manchester High School? When you miss going to the best school.
That's a joke.
I went to Manchester High School, and that was, I graduated in 1991, which was 21 years ago or something like that. That's a long time, man. And I remember when I started my CXC exams, I'm the product of a divorced family. My parents got divorced when I was 15 years old. And after I was in 3rd form. And by the time I went to 5th form, it started affecting me in a very negative way. So much to the point that when I sat my exams, I did 7 subjects and I passed 3 out of the 7. And I remember when I was going home the evening, I was wondering how my mother would take it that her son only passed 3 subjects out of 7. Anyway, I still went home. When I got into the house and mommy asked for the slip, I gave it to her. And all that my mother said was that I'm going to ask the principal for you to repeat 5th form to do the rest of them. So said, so done.
Huh?
I repeated before. Take 5 subjects and got 4.
What you say?
And
What you say?
I said that to say this. There was a young man in my year who did 8 subjects and got 4 5s and 5 4s. And where the school is, there is a hill which is about a half mile or a quarter mile long. And I remember his mother boxed him from the top of the hill to the bottom. On both sides. And when I look at that, I said, you know, whatever was happening at home, there must have been another way to exercise that kind of judgment. Boxing somebody from the hilltop to the bottom. I mean, trust me, if you don't get rebellion out of that, I don't know what rebellion is. So it tells us that, you know, unconditional love for our children is very, very important. And I have to say this especially to fathers. Sometimes as fathers, we are too rough with our children. Notice the father knows and no. Sometimes as fathers, we are too rough with our children, especially our sons. We have a tender space for daughters. I don't have no daughters, so I don't know. But we tend to treat our daughters with a little bit more tenderness. Huh? Yeah. But, you know, we need to also exercise unconditional love to both sexes, whether male or female, because it is important to their development. Let me show you how important it is. If as a father, you treat your son different from how you treat your daughter in terms of how you relate to them, and you tell your son that, you know, you must go figure it out, man, you're man.
Come here.
There's a very high probability that that young man is going to grow up not being able to relate to the female sex. It is so bad that one of the problems with especially the homosexual lifestyle today, if you check many homosexuals, what is missing from their lives also is the father figure. Enough research is out here to prove that. So how a father relates to his son can actually make a difference between him being a normal human being and him being somebody else. So it is important. So unconditional love is important. Children grow up to be healthy, functional members of society if they receive unconditional love. In the handout that I'm going to give you, there's a point that says you cannot love your children too much. And when I say love, note what I mean by this. Love is not spoiled. There's a clear difference between spoiling a child and loving them unconditionally. In other words, don't ever substitute things for love.
Leave it in the case.
Even if you don't have anything to give your child, still love them unconditionally because it makes a difference. Children need to know that they are loved. They need to know that whatever weakness and failures that they are loved because of who they are, not because of what they have achieved. A friend of mine hanged himself in 1996. He went, very bright young man, he went to Trinidad to attend UWI in Trinidad to be an engineer. And before he left Jamaica, he told his parents that I don't want to go to Trinidad. And they said to him that we are sending you because we are spending the money to send you here, to give you the best education that money can buy. And they sent him there. And every week he would call back Jamaica and tell his parents that he wanted to come home. And they told him to stay there because they have spent a lot of money for you to be in Trinidad. And you need to finish. Lo and behold, one Sunday morning, somebody called from Trinidad and told them that Julian had committed suicide. Julian drank a glass of Gramazole. Very painful death. And when they went to Julian's room and read Julian's journal, Julian missed his family so much. He did not want to go to Trinidad because he was going to be away from his family. And all that he wanted for them was to tell him what? To come home and finish his studies in Jamaica. And they would not allow him to do it. And Julian was so isolated in Trinidad, he had no friends. Because he was an introverted person. So he didn't have he was not the person who went out and made friends. He was a person who just used to be by himself. And indeed by himself he got depressed. And depression led him to commit suicide. And I know for a fact that his parents regret not having him back in Jamaica. If they had just said to him, come home, they would still have their son today. Right? So that is what you call. And your children will mess up. And they will mess up big time. The daughter that you have might just come home one day and say, Mommy, I'm pregnant.
Yes.
Please don't kick her through the door. I've seen too many of those situations turn out into tragedy. Right? Many of those children that we see on TV in the evening, in news. Check their background, what is happening, and you will find out that many of them have the same story. Alright? So unconditional love. That young man that you have, and he was so good behaving, and one day just going to supermarket that deeper back around. And you wonder, what happened? It still takes unconditional love to deal with that. Alright?
Who can play with me?
Here are some of the challenges. Social media, new world use, younger parents. You notice that parents are getting younger. Right? We have about 30-year-old grandmother now.
I'm recording that too.
It says something going wrong with the world. Family structures have changed. And the last one, individualism versus community. It is no longer the village that raised children. It's individual. Because do you realize that we live in a world that we have more walls in our communities more than anything else? I live in one of those, what you call them? Gated communities.
I want to see.
Everybody have been a wall.
Turn around.
And the walls are no longer 3 feet high. The walls are now 6 feet. Because nobody wants to see what is going on over there. And even though to some extent they're sensitive, but it has also robbed us of something. The community spirit has gone. I remember growing up in the country in Manchester. Going home one day, there was a gentleman, Mas Aston, and I did not know that Mas Aston's name was Mas Aston, because as far as I'm concerned, Mas Aston's name was Jabon, because everybody called Mas Aston Jabon. So I am going on the road, and my grandmother sent me out, and I passed Mas Aston. So I said, "Man, this is the Jabon." By the time I came back from the shop, Mas Aston was at home. Telling my grandmother that I am teasing him, calling Mr. Jabon. So you know, it's a dose of eating that. I live in the kind of community that if you pass an elder on the road and don't tell them howling, you know, by the time you reach home, it's a being there waiting. We don't live in that kind of community anymore. When I first came to Kingston, me come from country, so I'm full of manners. And when I wake up in the morning, my parents tell me that the first person you see, you tell them morning. I remember coming to Mona for school. Got up out of the dam one day and went downstairs to exercise. And saw a lady by the Mona Dam running, because that's where people come and run in the mornings. And with my manner myself, good morning, ma'am, young girl. Coming from country that is like, but them not people are just different. Because in the country, you tell somebody morning and you get a hearty good morning. We don't live in those kind of communities anymore. And it has also robbed us of some of our humanity, if you want to put it that way. Alright? Soon finish. Children need to know that they are loved. Wait, no, that has gone back.
Then come back, mommy.
There has to be a partnership between school,
Then
parents.
come back.
Your children actually spend more time at school than they spend at home.
Sometimes.
Children spend anywhere to about 8 hours at school per day. And the other hours in between they spend on the road, trying to get to school and from home to school. So they spend a significant time at home, at school. So it means therefore that there has to be a partnership between the school and the home. I cannot understand for the life of me how you can have a child going to high school for 5 years and you never go to school one day. Well, you go when the day when you go to register them. And the only time the school see after that is the day of graduation. So you really have to show up at school 2 times for the entire life of the child. That is madness. And then you wonder sometimes why the child come out and get 4-4 and 5-5. Because there has to be a partnership between what? The school and the home. Parents must know who are the persons that teach their children. I can't stress this more. Parents must know who is it that is responsible for the education of my child. They could be teaching them just about anything. As we had in the case the other day with JFJ and the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Youth and Culture. And I wonder, how is it that you have a program being taught in a home for almost 1 year and you only realize 1 month before the program finishes? It tells me that somebody was not paying attention. Something was wrong with the partnership. So there has to be a partnership between school and between home. Teachers must know the homes where their parents are, where their children are coming from. Right? When you know where children are coming from, then you know better how to deal with them. Right? You see a child just show up at school and the child, you want that dentist out hard. And you wonder sometimes, how this picnic and so? Check them home. And if you know what is going on at home, then it helps you to what? To better navigate and deal with that child. Sometimes also, if you know the home that child is coming from, you're actually saving a life. You don't know how many teachers are responsible for saving the lives of children.
True.
Simply by knowing the background they are coming from. Right? So that is very important. Children must know that teachers love them and also their parents. Very important. You know, one of the saddest things, and I have to stop to say this one. One of the challenges that is in the American system, and I pray that it doesn't reach the Caribbean, where it's almost a risk you take sending your children to school. Have you heard about the amount of school shootings that have happened in the last 10 years?
Don't pull it.
Well, not only that. Sometimes parents send their children to school and they are sexually abused by the teachers who are supposed to teach them. That cannot happen. When parents send their children to school, they are entrusting the lives of their children to teachers. And so that relationship is important. Unfortunately, there was a particular young man I knew back in Man who was a teacher, and I pray God is not a teacher anymore. At that time, I was somewhere around 19, 20 years old, and if I knew then what I know now, he would be in prison. Because that young man used to bring home his students, and I know it's not for extra lessons. He used to bring home his female students. And if I knew then what I knew now, I am sure as night turned into day, he would be in prison. Experience teaches wisdom. And so some of these things, we have to learn, protect our children. Parents, teachers, our responsibility is to protect our children. For us, ideas of parenting, some of these things we need to get out of our heads. The uptown phenomenon, which we talked about already. Cosby Show idea. I love the Cosby Show. I think it's one of the best programs that ever came on TV. But it is acting. The fact that they were so well put together does not make it an ideal. As a matter of fact, you only need to check the history of the persons who starred on the Cosby Show, and you will find out that most of them were dysfunctional. So, it's not the ideal. So don't form in your mind an unrealistic idea of what parenting is and think that if you reach that point, you have become an ideal parent. It doesn't work that way. Work with what you have. Alright? One parent can do it effectively, and we talk about that already. Children need both parents of different sexes, by the way, let me say that. One of the key elements to good parenting is involvement. School, church, social activities, hobbies, and other interests in relationships. I want to stop for this one. I want to talk about the church one. Don't send your children to church on Sunday morning and you stay home. And then behave when you pick them down and go to church and behave as if they come in the car and I'll sin. Go with them. As a matter of fact, I say to you, don't tell the children to do what you are unwilling to do. Because children see the inconsistencies in us. When you tell your child that they must go to church because it's a good thing, and if it's not good, why you don't go? Get involved in the life of the school, know what is happening. Know your child's interests, what is happening. You know, I have never watched so many children programs until Timothy was born. I start singing some of the songs then. There are times when Timothy says that, Daddy, can I watch my program now? And he always chooses to do it when I'm watching something that I want to watch. And I tell him all the time that I need to get another TV because me and not going to compete with this thing. Because he always has something that he can, and sometimes to have a peaceful life, you must have to keep it up. So I know all of the Peppa Pig, I know the Backyard, the Gangs, and all of the songs, and I know all of them. I can sing them word for word. Because a part of it is that our children must not become a burden to us. We have to share in their experience and what allows them to grow. Right? So it may seem ridiculous for you to be sitting down singing Peppa Pig song. But you don't know what that does to the child. When you show them that you are interested in what they are doing. For fathers who your sons like football and so forth. If your son met the football team, go with him to the football match. You might not understand, you might can't kick a ball to save your life. But the fact that your little star is on the field, I can tell you this. Out of the 20,000 people that might come to the football match, your child don't see nobody else but you. The fact that daddy is there cheering me on, even when you get 16 love. The fact that daddy is here cheering me on, it makes a difference to him. Right? So get involved in their social activities, whatever it is, their hobbies, their interests. Children are interested in some of the strangest things. Things that we often can't relate to. One of Timothy's things was, Timothy knows the bulldozer, all of those high-powered equipment. Timothy knows all of them. He don't know nothing about the message there. He can tell you what the tractor does, and some of the things that he knows, there's a particular equipment that they call the feather buncher. That's what his name, Timothy?
Yes.
Feather buncher. That cuts down trees and shapes them into board. I did not know that until Timothy was born. He went on the internet and found all of those equipment, and I have to sit down and endure him explaining what they do to me. But guess what? That's a part of sharing in his experience. Alright? Hold on, I'm going back to this one. The relationships. Get this if you don't get nothing else out of this. Your children are going to form relationships. Praise the Lord. You might not like it, but that's all the things happen. As long as they reach a certain age, they are going to form relationships. And I don't mean relationships where they just know people. Your daughter will see a little young man that she like. And she will probably get head over heels in love with him. Your son is going to see a little girl that you like. And all of a sudden, him come out, when he used to give $100, he come out and say for 200 and you don't know where the 100 going. It is going to happen. Get with the program. You know, oftentimes as parents, we are the greatest hypocrites. Because we don't remember some of the stuff that we used to do. For those of us who are fathers, when we used to chase 10 girls down the road and end up in some places that only God knows how we reach there. Sometimes as fathers, when we sit down back and think about some of the places that we end up because of the other sex. And then when we see our sons doing the very same thing, we wonder what kind of strange phenomenon is this? It's going to happen. So a part of forming a relationship with a child is to make sure that you are so involved in their lives and they are so comfortable with you that they are willing to come and sit and discuss anything with you. So that when your son comes and says, Daddy, you know I see a little girl like her, you know. Please, no matter tell me that, we're going to take up your book. Mommy, when the daughter comes and says, you know, John Paul is so handsome. He's Mr. Body Beautiful. Please do not respond to us. Say, man, you ready for?
Ready for baby.
Eh? No baby not coming yet. No bother with that. Because all that you are going to achieve is distance in your child. And I can tell you this. Whatever information they don't get from you, they can get it from somewhere else. So you better make sure that you are the person that they come to for information. Right? So get involved in the relationship. Open your house. Under supervision. So invite the boyfriends home. Because and I see somebody look at me strange. Your children are will like one somebody. They will like somebody this week and next week is somebody different. It's a part of their development. Right? Don't expect that the first person that they come home interested that they're going to marry that person. It's not going to happen that way. Every 2 weeks, who they like will change. And all that you have to do is go back to your own time as a teenager.
Tim.
Every week was a different girlfriend or a different boyfriend we like. It's always somebody. So guess what? It has not changed. We're still going through the same thing. So we must what? Get with the program, open the house, invite them over under supervision. Right? Because no picking is supposed to go lock up in a room with any parents there. That you're under my yard. Right? So it must be under supervision. You cannot have involvement in your child's life without good channels of communication. Right? Not possible. And communication don't start when you're 13. Communication starts from the day they are born. Or even before. Thank you, Mommy. Raquel used to sit down and talk to Timothy and play music, and I wonder this man must mad or something. Picking a bonnet and you still playing music. Guess what? So when Timothy was born, Timothy has a very great appreciation for music and reading. And I know it was partly because Mommy used to do it when he was in the belly. So communication don't begin at 16 years old. But when you try to start communicating with your child at 16, the heart's done gone through the gate long time. Right? And all that you're going to do is try to play catch up. Talk to your child as an object. Not as an object, but as a person. And I have to stress, how much time do I have? I still have time? Yes. Any children in here below, please call me son, please. Well, no, sorry. We have a strange way of talking to our children. So, things like penis and vagina take on some very strange names. Some of them I dare not repeat. Talk to your children as if they are people, not objects. When they come and ask the questions, give them right answers. Stop telling the picnic that they're here, it's stop, bring them, come here. Mommy, how did I get here? A stork brought you.
Jump out the sky.
When we get to the sex talk, we talk about the birds and the bees. I don't know about the birds and the bees? Talk to your children as if they are people and not objects. Because whatever you don't tell them, all that they're going to do is go on the internet and kind of say, you know, some women lie. You know that they lie. Because here is it. I come and ask you a legitimate question, expecting a legitimate answer, and you give me a cock and bull story. How does it work that way? Give them correct answers.
No, don't do that, baby.
Sometimes children will ask you some difficult questions. You have to be prepared for them. I remember Timothy asked me at 3 years old, Daddy, where did I come from? And I had to find a very appropriate answer for his age group, because guess what? It has to be age appropriate. You don't want to get down into the nitty-gritty. But be prepared to answer these questions, because they're going to ask them. Be aware, children have their own opinions and also their own ideas about how the world functions. Right? And a part of it, we need to respect it. Right? Children are able to figure out things. If you see a child today take a gadget and pull it down, scrap it, and put it back together, and it is still functioning. I remember the first time I tried to pull down a TV when I was a young man, and today the TV still work. And I thought that I did a very good job. But give a child the same thing today, and they'll make you look like you don't have much sense. They have their own opinions about how the world functions. Involve them in the decision-making process. Let them know that what they have to say is important. And this is where we fall down a lot of the time as parents. If you're moving, the child needs to know. If they have to move for whatever circumstance, they need to know. As a matter of fact, they need to be a part of the process. So don't just get up tomorrow morning and decide that you're going to move to Canada. And because it's a child, they must come, regardless of how they feel. Because if you end up with a depressed child, don't be surprised. Because remember, you are uprooting them from a particular environment. And they have their own roots in these spaces. So it may be a very good thing for the family to do, but your children need to be a part of the decision-making process. When you don't have any money to spend, your children also need to know. Because it helps them to have an appreciation for life, and that they can't get everything that their hearts desire. Right? It's very important. So involve them. You are not your child's friend, even though you must be friendly with them. Going through Suffering Center one afternoon, I saw a parent with her daughter. And as I passed them, I really had to stop and take a look back. Because I was wondering, who is the daughter and who is the parent? Because I could not differentiate who was who. Now the child was somewhere about 6 years old. But I still couldn't differentiate who was the parent and who was the mother. Because the mother was dressed like she was going to some dance on back road. And the child was dressed the very same way. And so I'm wondering, well, who is who? So there must be a clear line of demarcation between who is parent and who is child. Right? So that's important. See, we have a nice family there again. Discipline, don't abuse. There's a difference between discipline and abusing. Very clear difference. I told my mother some years ago that what they used to do is not discipline. It borders on child abuse. I tell about the yard that I grew up in. Them take anything they can. Anything with them hand reach, that becomes a missile. You don't want that kind of parenting in the 21st century. As a matter of fact, we are moving towards a society now where it's going to be soon illegal to even spank your child. Everything that America has, we soon somehow get it. So don't be surprised that's going to reach that point in time when your child will report you. I have a cousin who every summer our son used to get a dose of beat. Because when she's in New York, she can't meet him. So it's when she comes to Jamaica for holidays, you get everything that passed the year. But again, there's a thin line between abusiveness and discipline. Alright? Notice on this one. Discipline children at their age level. You don't discipline a 2-year-old the same way you discipline an 8-year-old. You don't discipline a 2-year-old the way you discipline a 16-year-old. Discipline them at their age level. An example, I used to wonder this. I used to hear about the naughty corner. Sending children into the naughty corner. And I thought it was as ridiculous thing. Because for the life of me, I could not understand how standing up in a corner can discipline anybody until Mr. Timothy was born. Because Timothy rarely gets a spanking and usually is me beat. But Timothy is more afraid of that corner than he's afraid of spanking. If you tell him to go into the naughty corner, Sister Amber, everything, he start negotiate with you about what he will do. It works. So in other words, what it says to us is that there are ways of disciplining children that we ought to learn. It don't have to always be the box down, beat down, kick down, back down. It don't have to be that. There are very, very effective ways of disciplining our children. Alright? Conversation is much more effective than beating. Sit and talk to your children. When they, as a matter of fact, most parents have said this, and it's on your handout. If your child does something that you have to discipline them for, when you discipline them, don't leave it there. Tell them why you have done what you have done. Tell them why you have taken the action that you have taken. Right? It makes a difference. So if they do something and you have to give them a spanking, after the storm has come, you need to take them aside and tell them why is it that you needed to take this action, because it does make a difference. Okay? This part is, I don't even have to go through this slide, because this is actually a different presentation. But one of the greatest challenges that we have as parents is to break the cycle of dysfunctional behavior. Many of us come from families that were highly dysfunctional. And the only way that we are going to learn to be better parents is if we break the cycle of dysfunctionality. If you don't break that cycle, it almost becomes a generational curse. And I am a living example of that. Raquel and I, both of us are from families where our parents got divorced. And one of the decisions that we made, even while we were dating, is that divorce would not be an option for us. In other words, whatever problems we have, they must be worked out. Because we came from families that my parents divorced when I was 15, Raquel's parents divorced somewhere around the same time. And so we grew up knowing what it means to be in a single parent family and know what it does. And so we made a conscious decision that we will always work on our marriage no matter what happens. Because we will not allow Timothy to grow up in a family where he doesn't have both parents. I tell Raquel all the time that if I dead tomorrow, I am not going to husband. Because the boy needs a father. I'll be watching from above. But children need both parents. Right? And so we have to know what? Take on the challenge of breaking the cycle of dysfunctionality. Make those decisions. Because the problem is, if we don't make those decisions now, our children are going to carry on the same cycle, and their children will carry on the same cycle. And sooner or later we have a society that is more dysfunctional than the one we have now. I hope that I've said something to you this evening that has helped you and that you will be magnificent parents. Thank you very much.